Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
Hello there, and welcome to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am your host, Frankie Picasso, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. Today, we are going on an extraordinary Mission Unstoppable with a guide who will take us on a wild roller coaster ride of success. Geir Ness won the lottery. Well, not really the lottery. A native of Oslo, Norway, he is one of the very few to turn his American dream into reality. Armed with $1,000 and a pocket full of chutzpah, Geir came to America to become a star. He may not have made it in the movies, but he did become Norway's first fragrance and handbag designer, forever making his mark in the beauty and fashion industry as an entrepreneur and humanitarian. Let's hear from Geir himself. Welcome. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How about you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited to hear your story. So
yes, of course. I'm excited to be here too.
Awesome. So you came from Oslo, or did you come from a little town outside of Oslo?
Well, I came from Oslo, but a little area outside Oslo, like 20 minutes outside downtown Oslo. That's where I grew up.
Can you describe
Norway.
for the listeners what it looked like there, like when you look out your window?
Yeah, we lived in a fourplex. My family, we were three brothers, mom and dad. We had a one-bedroom apartment, so three brothers was in one bedroom. My mom and dad have their bedroom in the living room. They have like sofa, that they turn into a bed at night. And then there was
wow.
And we had to share a bathroom with our neighbors downstairs in the basement. And you can imagine when it's winter in Norway and 20 below zero, we had to go through like two stairs and go down to the bathroom. It was pretty cold.
I imagine it was very cold.
We grew up pretty tight. Pretty tight. But it was a beautiful, around where I grew up, we had a lot of soccer field, woods, so there's a lot of greenery around where I grew up. But my parents, when I grew up, they didn't have a lot of money, so we spent a lot of times outside because our apartment was so small. But one thing that we always had was love. We had a lot of love, and my dad took me into sports, so I started sports when I was very young, played soccer, team handball, all that thing. So I had I was very lucky. I had a very healthy upbringing because of my family and the love I got. But we didn't have any space, so you had to be creative, you grow up in that kind of space.
When you think of Norway or Sweden or any of those countries, really, all of Europe. I mean, I'm from Salzburg, so I know.
Oh yeah.
The rooms are very tiny anyway. Everything is very sparse.
Right.
But to cram all of you guys into that space, that's pretty incredible.
I also think what I learned now is when you grow up like that, you don't know anything else.
Right.
This is how we grow up, and you think that this is the norm. This is the way it's supposed to be. So you're dealing with it, differently than let's see if you grow up with in a 4,000 square foot home, and then you have to move to a place like mine that I grew up with. That's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, I thought we had everything when I grew up. I never thought about until I got a little older and I saw friends of mine that lived differently and all that. But when I grew up, we were fine with it. There was no problem at all. And we just dealt with it, but we spent a lot of times outside, and I think that's where I got the love for the nature and all that, because I spent so much time in the woods and the mountains when I grew up.
So where were you on in the brothers? The oldest, middle, young? Who were you?
I was the middle one.
Oh, the middle one.
Yeah. The
special one.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always say my middle child walked to a different drummer. He really does, from the rest.
You're right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how old were you when you decided, I'm going to leave here?
So I started to work when I was 12 years old. I went to school, and in the morning I started to deliver newspaper in the morning. So my mom will make me up at 3 a.m. I will go down, do the newspaper, pass them out, make a little money, and go back to bed for 45 minutes, and then go to school. When I was 15, I started to clean offices in the weekends and work at 3 different jobs.
Wow.
To make money. And by the time I was 17, I bought my first condo in Oslo.
What kind of job did your dad do? What did your father do?
So my father was working in a car dealership, and he dealt with the economy, and he was very good with numbers, but he was not a good businessman. He was very loyal, and he did the same. He never asked for a raise and anything. He thought, when he get a job and just do it well, and he was so honest and loyal, but he never asked for a raise. He never wanted another job that he can probably make much more money, because he was very smart. So he just did it, and it was this. But I learned that from him, to work hard and be honest and all that. But I also saw that what we can do differently. You can ask for things, you can be creative more. I think from his generation, they were loyal. They were different than us today.
Yes.
So definitely. So so that's what he did, and then I just knew that I wanted, after I started to get a little older, 14, 15, when I saw my friends, I said, I want my own space. Not that I didn't like, but we had such a tiny space that if I move out, my parents will have bigger space. So that's how I was thinking about, So, yes, I was not even 18. I was 17 something then when I got my first condo in Oslo.
Wow.
And that was for the money that I... Yeah, so it's good. And you see that, I think today a lot of times people get it, a lot of people get it easy. They think it's so easy. They have their phone, they have their tablet, they have their this and that. They don't really do much. They don't communicate with all the kids. It's all about, the computers and all that. And I think they're losing a lot of those things to really work hard and talk to people and play outside and do other things. And I
agree with you.
I can see that with my friends, Yeah,
Yep.
so I see. I'm very glad that I grew up. I was lucky that way, but I see a lot of my friends that have kids now. They have problems with their kids because they don't really do that anymore. As they just sit on the computer, go into say hi to them, and then they don't even look up. They're just into the computer, and then they don't say hi or anything with the kids. This is all into the play and the games and the people talking to from all over the world, and parents don't even know how they're talking to many times.
But even in corporate, even in stores, you go into a store, and if the telephone rings, the person on the phone is more important than the person standing in front of them wanting to pay for something. Right?
Exactly.
Drives me crazy.
I see that all the time. That is so crazy, and there's no communication, or they're texting or on their one of those sites, to maybe find a date for the night.
Right. Yeah.
So exactly, it takes over, and I think now I think people starting to realize it more and more, that it's so important that we talk to each other and communicate differently than people
really
do today. Because I think I love the new technology. I love to follow it and do all that, but it comes to a point that you really need to calm down a few notches and then really see what's going on.
And I also
especially kids today.
Yeah. And don't you find that people like to break up over a text or the miscommunication that comes through email rather than the voice to voice? Like, talk to somebody. Talk to them.
And because sometimes you get a text, and you don't know the feeling of it. Sometimes you say, oh my God, that was so rude, but that's not what they meant, but you don't talk, you don't hear the voice, so you don't know what that sentence means, and that happens many times. That's why I had to call people if there's something I don't agree with, because I know those texting back and forth sometimes are crazy. You don't even,
texting.
Yeah.
I really do. It drives me nuts. But like you, I left home early. I left home at 17 too, and I think it was really important. But now today you see kids staying home in their 30s, and it's like, are you kidding me? No.
Right.
You got to go.
Right.
You got to grow up. You don't grow up until you leave home.
Yeah, and you need to have a passion and have a goal and get, your parents pushing you to do things. Because, when you are a teenager, the only thing you want to do is to do what other kids do, and, playing with the games and not doing anything. But you need to get pushed too, not in a bad way, but I think I think the parents has definitely a role and to do, and not to say, oh, they don't want to, so I don't let him do whatever he wants. He's just a kid, and then all of a sudden the kid is not a kid anymore, and they get spoiled and they don't do anything, and they need need to get pushed. They need to have a goal. They need to do that. And I'm very glad that I did, and I got that opportunity. And I think that really helped me for what I'm doing today.
I think we're all glad that you did.
Thank you.
So obviously you've got good looks, and did somebody say, "Oh, gee, Geir, you should be a movie star. Go to America"? Is that what happened, or what?
Well, actually, what happened was that I was living in Spain, and at that time I was a tour guide, and also in the evening I was producing and directing a cabaret show because I love acting since I was very young.
Sure.
And I did a little sitcom, like a bit part of a sitcom on television in Norway, and I love that. And then I got into Spain and doing this show, a cabaret for all the tourists was really fun. People from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, on stage there and having fun. And one day after the one show we did I did a number from Cabaret. The one that Joel Grey does. And I was playing then "We'll Come" and "Jan and You Will Come." I was playing the MC there, with mask on and dancing around, and have the two girls with me that was, in high heels, and I felt like a superstar being on that stage. and so after the show, one producer from Sweden come up to me and was telling me that, "Oh, you're so funny. You should do more with your talent. You should move to either London, study acting, or the United States, and all that." And I always thought about it. Said, I love Spain. I love what I'm doing. So this is, I'm happy here. Sure. Then more I thought about, I started to write to schools in London, in New York, Los Angeles. And I got some letters back, and they said, you had to come to audition, to be accepted. You can't just, write, like I want to go to the school. And I always wanted, I always said, oh my God, LA and the movie industry sounds so appealing to me. So maybe I should try that. And I wrote to schools, and I had to go to audition.
I have to stop you here. I have to stop you. We're going to go to a commercial break.
All right.
I think it's a really good place to stop. Yeah, it's a really good spot to stop you, because next, don't go anywhere.
It's a fun story.
When we get back,
exactly.
Don't go anywhere. Geir's going to tell you how it all happened, how it all came down.
Exactly.
We'll be right back. Stick around. Stay tuned.
Don't stop.
That's right, don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
It's words you never heard. Man cannot live by bread alone. He must have his peanut butter. Peanut butter is a pate of childhood, and it's not just for kids, as dogs love it too. Last night I gave my dog a pill hidden in peanut butter. What's a word for a messy concoction that helps the medicine go down? Sliver sauce. Mice apparently prefer peanut butter to cheese when it comes to luring them into the trap. But there are even more practical uses for peanut butter. Peanut butter contains natural oils, which makes it perfect for removing all kinds of sticky things, like gum stuck in your shoe or in your hair. What's a word for the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth? Arachnophobia. And according to Barry Goldwater, if you don't mind smelling like peanut butter for 2 or 3 days, peanut butter is a darn good shaving cream.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Okay, and we're back. You're listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. And our tunes aren't going away. Okay. Thank you, Ben. Okay. So we're back. We're listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am your host, Frankie Picasso. My guest today is Geir Ness. Geir was telling us a story of how he moved from Oslo to America. He's going after the American dream. Okay. Take us back in.
All right. Yeah. So before the commercial break, we were in Spain, actually.
Spain, that's right.
Yeah, and I met this producer from Sweden. He said, I'm talented. So I ended up writing 2 letters to different schools in the UK and New York and Los Angeles. And I wanted to go to LA. So I ended up
acting schools,
acting, producing, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
Private schools. So I just said I can go into for audition. So I told, my parents that I was accepted already, just to calm them down. So I got from Europe to Los Angeles, and I didn't know a single person when I arrived at the LAX. And so I rented a car, and the school was supposed to begin the audition a week after I arrived. So I knew there was some cheap. I've been checking out, and I saw there was some motels up in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, cheap motels, whatever. So I drove up there, and there was I remember a night for $14.99 that time, and you can imagine what kind of standard and then quality that was. So I got to one of them. I parked my car. I never forget this. I come in late afternoon, evening, something bit dark. So I parked my car to go in there to see if they have a room available. So I parked my car, I just walk into the main office. So the guy said, okay, we have a room here. Here's the keys and all of that. So I parked my car right next to where I go the door. I walk in, and there was a person laying in this, in my room that I got.
Yeah. Oh,
so
really?
I go back,
in your room?
and that was really sweet, welcome. And then I turn around, and I see 2 people inside my car because I had locked. I was just going to go in with some of my bags that I had in the front, and I had rest in my luggage in my trunk. I go back, and 2 people are in my car, searching around, and I got afraid and everything. I don't know what happened to me, so I started to run towards them, and get out of my car, and I started to fight with them. And then the one guy, he fell, and then he got scared, and he run, and all of a sudden I go on the sidewalk, and I see 8 people coming towards me, like a gang, coming towards me with chain and stuff,
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, so I got so scared, and I jumped in my car, and I took off, after I paid, whatever. There wasn't much, but it was a lot for me. I didn't have a lot of money with me. Sure. And I remember stopping with one of those phone booths, because this is 20 years ago. That was before, really cell phones and anything, right? Yeah. So there was a pay phone on Sunset Boulevard. So I called my mom, and my mom goes, so how is everything? I said, oh, my mom, this is wonderful. I just love LA. The people are so friendly here and nice. And I was because I don't want her. So that was the welcome to LA. So I ended up actually driving to a parking lot, and I slept in my car that first night in LA. So that was my first big night in Los Angeles, was sleeping in my car, when I arrived.
Welcome to America.
Yes. So then what I did, I started to do research where the school's going to be, and I didn't rent a place, an apartment and all that. So that's how I did to do. And I went to audition, and I was lucky enough that they accepted me. And so I started school, and I rented this really cheap apartment, in the bad side of town, but that's all I could afford. And that's how I started to studying. But, after a while, you run out of money. So you're starting to, need some money. And then I had a friend of mine that I met, and he said to me, I have a job for you next weekend in a department store, and it calls fragrance modeling, and you need to just spray people, and you get pretty good money. I said, well, I don't know anything about fragrances, and, He said, well, it doesn't matter. You just spray people and get them to buy, whatever you spray, and that's all they need to do.
Right?
Right. So, but it's just kind of funny because I got this job in this big department store in Los Angeles, and my friend was telling me to spray everybody, right? And I do everything 150% when I do anything. So what I did when people walk into the store, I run after them and started to spray them. I didn't ask them, did you want to try it? I was just spraying them, running after them. So after 5 minutes, the department manager come over to me and said, excuse me, but I don't think this is for you. So I basically got fired after 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
And that was my first job as in the fragrance industry in the United States. But then I got a job in another department store, and now I started to learn how to do it. You know, you talk to people, and I love people, so it was easy for me. And then I say, oh, it's a fragrance, and I started to do really well. I started to sell good, and I loved it. And, you know, as I told you earlier, when I was little, I always was outside because of our space in my apartment. And, you know, so at a very young age, I could separate flowers and the scents, and I love scents. I always have loved scents.
Okay.
So working with these fragrances and all these different lines I worked for them, I loved it. And people come up to me all the time and said to me, you know, where are you from? And I said, Norway. And they all ask me, does Norway have their own scent? And I find out we never did. We have fragrances from Italy and France and all that, but never really a fragrance that, you know, reflected Norway. So one day I was invited to this big party for fragrances because I've been selling a lot. So I was invited for a lunch in a fragrance in Los Angeles. So I was sitting next to a perfumer from France. So I was asking him a question and said, how do you create a fragrance? And he said to me, find ingredients that you like. And the first thing that came to my mind were like Norwegian wildflowers, you know, in Norway, and you know, the scent that I was introduced to with, you know, my mom when I was little.
Sure.
So when I was back in Norway for vacation, and I collected flowers and herbs, and this perfumer was really helpful. And he said, you know, I would like to, you know, see if I can help you. And, you know, he didn't charge me to help in the beginning. So I started to really take with me everything that I could think about that I liked, you know, from Norway. And so he smelled it and started to make oil. So every time we come up with an oil, I walked on the street and I asked people what they thought about the scent without telling them that I was behind it. And that way, you know, you get the honest truth, what people really think. So I worked on this for almost 4 years. And in those 4 years, Frankie, I had then worked for a lot of different fragrance company. I did some acting. I got a couple of small B movies. I got my Screen Actors Guild card. So I got a little bit of the flavor of.
Wait, I'm going to say you were actually listed as, you know, in Project Vampire, and you were the alpha intern.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, that was. I can't believe you.
Woo! You're in a movie.
That is, yes. So that was a shot. We did that in Long Beach, I think, in California, for like 7 days for like a 15 seconds thing. You know, took like almost a week to shoot. But yeah, so I got that, and I got a couple of small plays I was doing in another movie called Casting Agency, I think. And so it was, you know, so I got little of that. Plus, I got to know this fragrance industry pretty well. And one thing I realized, you know, asking people what they thought of the scent and all that, was most people wanted something fresh and light. You know, people were tired of the heavy fragrances, the too sweet, people allergic, you know, all those things. So, but when I was working with this perfumer and the perfume house, I realized more and more, you know, that this is really something I want to do, but I didn't have any money to produce this. So when the scent was almost finished, you know, I needed like one more ingredient, and I always love lavender. Lavender is one of my favorite, you know, scents. So I got some lavender extract, you know, into this fragrance. And after we did that, people goes, oh my God, it smells so good. And I realized this is what I have to do now in life. You know, I need to really do this and not just do a little of this, a little of that. I want to concentrate 110%, but I don't have the money to do this. So what happened was a friend of mine that I was telling him about this, he became a very dear friend of mine. He said, Geir, I believe in you. I don't have a lot of money, but I have a little bit. You can pay me tomorrow or in 20 years. I know you're going to be successful. Then I had one credit card, but I had money on. So I maxed up my credit card, and I produced 1,000 bottles, which is today, of course, nothing. But, you know, that was all I had. And what I did also, but it's a lot, but not, you know, to survive and make a living. It's not. So what I did, frankly, I copied my mom's signature without her knowing it, and I silk screened her name on the bottle, and I gave it the first bottle to her for Mother's Day. So Laila is the name of the fragrance, Laila. So Laila. That's, you know, name of her. And then I was sitting there in Los Angeles with 1,000 bottles in my apartment, and I didn't know that anybody, you know, wanted the fragrance. I called department stores. Nobody called me back, of course. And
wait, I got to stop you for 1 second, though. What was her reaction?
She was shocked because I said I'm going to send you something, and she had got a sample of all the other fragrances I've been working with, you know.
Oh, okay, so she had known about it.
Yes, one thing, and then she was shocked, and she go, yeah, but my name can be a fragrance. It's like, yes, Mom, you have a beautiful name, and I love you, so this is it. This is the fragrance. So she was just shocked. She knew I was working with something, but she didn't know I was going to do this, obviously.
But she loved the scent.
So she loved the scent, and then she said to me, it reminded her even about Norway, and that's what I wanted, something clean and light and sweet and happy.
And doesn't it have watermelon in it?
It has a drop of watermelon because my mom and it has also lily of the valley, which is my mom's and my favorite. When you can smell that, and it has a lot of herbs in it and the lavender.
I'm wearing it today because I wanted to be in the mood. For
you are?
Yeah. I got a little sample bottle, so I put some on in honor of our interview today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frankie. Yeah, so where were I with that? So,
sorry. Okay, you have 1,000 bottles.
1,000 bottles. And then I finally got a meeting with Nordstroms. And Nordstrom was like the top of my list. I always loved that store because I worked there did fragrance modeling also with Nordstroms. And what I love about that store was the customer service. They have unique things there, that's something that no one else had. So that was like my highest goal, to try to get into Nordstrom. And I had met the buyer, and she was amazing. And she said to me, Geir, I love your scent, but you have no advertisement money and no, name. And this is harder than show business, which I know now it is. It's very, very hard to get in. And she said, finally, she agreed on taking in 100 bottles to one store and see how much I will sell in 3 months. So, and that was the day before Mother's Day, I'm going to get my fragrance into Nordstrom's.
Wow.
So I said to myself, I only have one shot, so I have to be very creative. What I'm going to do on this one day to get able to sell these bottles. So going to the acting class, I had many friends at school. Some was, actor, photographers.
I'm going to stop you. We're going to go to another commercial break. I don't want you to tell the story till we come back, because this is a really good story.
Right.
These folks are not going to want to miss this story, because this is very cool, very creative, very cool. And for all of you entrepreneurs out there who are listening, take note, because, one thing my dad said to me, Geir, is anybody can do it with money. Anybody can do it with money. What can you do without money, right? Let's see how creative you can get.
You will hear it after the commercial break.
There we go. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
We have a book titled The Art of Doing Nothing by Veronica Bien in our guest room by the bed. I'm telling you, this book is an impossible challenge. In the state of Maine, it's said that someone who bottoms chairs for a living is lazy, presumably because one's bottom is perpetually in the chair. To sozzle means to laze around or perform a task in a sloppy way. The word is mainly found in New England. A quote from 1848 describes the term as used by housekeepers in certain parts of Connecticut to refer to a lazy person. Other words for lazy people are abbey-lubbers, scabberlatchers, and slaughter-pooches. To me, the ultimate loblolly is someone who is too lazy to even fake like they're working.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's words you never heard.
Our son just adopted a dog, a red fox Labrador named Scout. There is no better psychologist in the world to help you feel good, like a happy-go-lucky Norse Boris puppy licking your face. Dogs are really smart. If you think dogs can't count, try putting 3 dog biscuits in your pocket and then giving Fido only 2 of them. Your dog will be snuzzling or poking around with his nose to find the last biscuit. If people are really smarter than dogs, why are we the ones walking along behind them with the pooper scooper? The reason a dog has so many friends is that he wags his tail instead of his tongue. Even though owning a dog can cause us to become dartle-dum-doos, or someone who spent all of their energy, dogs reward us by giving us their all. It's the best deal man has ever made.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
And we're back. You're listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am your host, Frankie Picasso, and today my guest is Geir Ness. Now, Geir just was telling us a story about he was bringing Laila perfume into Nordstroms, and he's got 100 bottles. It's the day before Mother's Day, and they're hoping that they will sell out of these bottles in 3 months. Here we go.
Yes. All right. So I had called my friend up that was a photographer. His name was John. I said, John, can you come down to Nordstrom and take picture of me the day of my launching for Mother's Day and pretend that I'm a big star, you know? And he said to me, and remember now, this is 20 years ago, so that's before the, the cell phones, and you have a little camera on your phone, right? But
Sure,
it was like, real deal. And he said to me, Geir, I would love to do it, but I have no film in my camera. And I said, nobody knows that. Just come down and flash and pretend I'm a big star. Then I asked a couple of friends of mine, and this is a true story. So I asked a couple of friends of mine in class, can you guys come down and just make a big deal that I'm there, and I take you guys for dinner or do something, Okay, so they're going to come down and say, oh, my God, here he is, right? So I go to a garage sale, and I buy a suit for $5.
Oh my
and
gosh.
at the garage sale, they had a red carpet laying on it. It wasn't pretty. It was red, but it was dirty. But I got it for free, for $5. I got the carpet and the suit. And I couldn't afford to go and dry clean the suit because I have no money for that. But that didn't matter. It looks nice, So when the door opened at Nordstrom the day before Mother's Day, I had my red carpet there laying there. I had all the bottles behind me and have some pictures for myself, my headshots because of the acting. So that I stabbed those pictures everywhere, around. Then you had the photographer flashing and, the whole thing. So when people walking in, to buy, they see this big fancy, all the different fragrance houses have this all beautiful, flowers and what have you. And you see me in the corner over there. And people, in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, they always want to see a star or be a star themselves. So people came over to me because they see the red carpet and this blonde guy staying there with the suit on. There must be somebody very, special, right?
Yes.
So they're starting to line up, and I started to sell. And people come up to me, oh, my God, I love you. It's one woman come up to me, and she had so much diamonds on her fingers, she can barely lift her arms up. And she put her hands on my shoulder. She looked straight in my eyes, and she said to me, darling, I love that suit. That must be from Europe. And I was just smiling back to her, and I bought it like 4 blocks away in a garage sale, but she didn't know. And I just play along with that, And she bought for all her friends. And then I think in an hour, I sold out all the bottles.
How much were they selling for?
They were going for, $60 per bottle or something like that?
Yeah. And what was your biggest competitor at the time, fragrance-wise?
Well, I will say all of them. You have Chanel, you have, all those big Calvin Klein. All those big lines, are there. And I just did my stuff, and I was just like, and I saw, all the other lines were looking at me. It's like, what's going on with this guy? You know what I mean? They're coming back and then selling and selling. And plus, I got a lot of people on a waiting list just to buy the fragrance after we sold out. So, so then when I walk out of Nordstrom's, because I have different jobs, it wasn't that I need to make money too, right? I didn't make any money in the beginning. So when I walk out of Nordstrom, there was a homeless person sitting there in a box, full of cones, and so I had some dollar bills. And he said to me, excuse me, sir, do you have some change? And I looked at him and said, you know what? You have more cash than I have. I'm sorry, I don't have any. And he looked at me like, yeah, you're so full of it. But, I didn't, And then I had, at that time, I bought a $600 car, like those old Renault Le Car, what's the name of it? It was like an old French car. Yeah.
I love
the
Renault.
Parked at like 5. Yeah, I love them too. But this car, wasn't really in a great condition because it was $600. And I parked it like 6 blocks away so nobody could see me, in the car because I was a big star from Europe. So I go in this car and I changed into a T-shirt and jeans because I also worked as a seat filler. What you do, you go to those big, the shows you see on television, and people applauding for it. And they pay people to do that, and I was one of the seat fillers. I worked for Star Jones. Remember her?
Star
she
Jones,
was at the View, I guess. Yeah. And she had her own talk show at that time. So what I did, I go in there and applauding and making $15 an hour to do that, from being like a star at Nordstrom's to doing that in between, all different things. And come back that weekend. I had some clothes that I sold in my garage sale to make the rent for that month, and that's how I started, at Nordstrom.
And how old were you now? How old were you?
So this is so that I would believe, so this one is 20, so they must be 29 years old.
Okay, wow. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur and you want to be an entrepreneur, this is a wonderful story. This is like a Richard Branson kind of thing that would happen, right? This is like you have to get really creative and get yourself, and do what you have to do. And how resourceful were you to find a $5 suit and to, get your friends to pretend. And it's all show, baby. It's all show, right?
Yeah. And I think I learned that in Spain as a tour guide. I learned that at school in acting class. You have to be creative. You have to sell yourself, because nobody will do it for you. So, actors, you have all the stories from actors that know how to successfully get an Oscar. They started somewhere, they were creative. Like Madonna, what she did, to become famous. And, they're not just done because you can write a song or you can sing. There's more to it. It's to create something and make it happen. And that's what I learned from doing all this. So, and I love telling that story to people because I meet so many people that have a dream and want to do it, and it's like you got to be thinking outside the box. You have to think outside the box.
So now you really did go outside the box because you have your perfume line, you have the men's line Geir, you have your creams, you have skincare line, and you have purses.
Right. Yes. Yeah, so after this with Nordstrom, I started, I got into more stores. I got into all the Nordstrom stores. And then I met with Disney World in Orlando. And I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World in Orlando, but they have Epcot, which is very popular. They have a lot of, countries from all over the world. They have Canada, they have Norway, they have the UK, France, Italy, all of them. So at the Norway Pavilion, they had, the sweaters, the trolls, and what have you, but they didn't have any fragrance there because Norway is not really known, obviously, for fragrances. So they're going to try my fragrance in there, and the first day we sold it out, and then I got into Epcot, and now it's one of the best-selling fragrances in Disney World at Epcot because I also blended myself. Signing it, and, I just...
Don't you travel like 260 days or 300 days a year or whatever?
I think I have like 300 days, traveling. And actually, from in the next couple of weeks, I'll be at Epcot actually signing. And I just feel
Norway
or
in which Epcot?
In Epcot, in Norway Pavilion at Epcot.
Oh, in Florida.
In Florida, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to be there, I think, on July 12th, something. But the thing is... that I've been blessed because, one of my favorite department stores is Nordstrom. And I always was a big Disney fan since I was able to see the movies for Christmas, with Mickey and Donald Duck and all that, So for me, I'm meeting all this wonderful, people there, the guests and everything. And I had to tell you a fun story that happened to me if we have time in Disney World. This young guy come up to me and he was telling me that he said, "Mr. Ness, I got to tell you a fun story, and I want to thank you so much for this." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, I go into this bank, I'm going to pay my bills, and it was packed with people, and I smelled somebody behind me that smelled so beautifully, so I had to turn around, and I see this beautiful woman, and she was wearing the scent, and that was yours. So we started to talk, and we liked each other, so we exchanged phone numbers, and we started to date," he said, "and we go out, and we got engaged, and they ended up getting married, and he said, we got a little child, a little girl, and we named it after your fragrance." And then he said, "Hold on a second," and he go out and get his wife and a little baby, which is named Laila, and coming into me and taking pictures because of my fragrance. That's how they have their family.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
so I
what
get
a great
this
story.
kind of stories, Frankie, and I just say, I'm like, I get stories all the time. People, telling me stories about my fragrance, and that means to me because that more than just, yes, you create something, and we all have to make money and all that.
Sure.
But for me, it's more than that. You know what I mean?
It's
It's the experience, the stories. Yeah, and it's just for me, I feel so blessed, and I just, after he's telling me that story, it's like, wow, this is really incredible that you create a fragrance. Create a family from your fragrance.
Absolutely. I want to change gears here because folks can't see you, obviously, but I want to tell you guys that Geir is built like a brick shit house. You are really, you're built like a Greek god. My goodness.
Thank you.
There's a
You
visual.
are funny. I love it.
Okay.
Well, I try to take good care of myself.
Yeah, and you do take good care of yourself. So what is it that you do? What's your secret? What do you eat? Tell me what you eat.
Okay. So the secret with what I do is I never believe in a diet. I believe in a lifestyle. And the reason why, because when you are on a diet, people starve themselves. They can only eat 2 or 3 times a day. And then you crave and you're craving. And then all of a sudden the diet doesn't work anymore. You see, most people on diet from 1 to 2 years, they're back or even more than they was before the diet.
Yeah.
So for me, it's to eat. So for me, it's to eat the right thing. And I'm not saying, Frankie, I don't believe in you can never eat this, you can never do that. I believe if you put that, in front of you, you can never do anything, that it will fail. It will fail sooner or later. So what I do every morning, regardless of where I am, I always have, I like egg whites. So I do my egg white with spinach, broccoli, tomatoes, some berries. You get some antioxidants in.
Sure.
And wherever you go, because I travel over 300 days a year, so obviously I'm hardly never home. So if I go to a restaurant, I never look at the menu. I know that most, diners they will have this. So I said, I need an egg white omelet, with this and that. I don't want any cheese in it and no salt extra because I'm allergic to it. Even if you're not, because now they listen to you and they write it, more specific. So I asked that. So I eat that basically every breakfast. I have that if I can, or I have oatmeal, but stay away from the sugary and all that. And you can, because a lot of times they put so much sugar on the top of it that ruin the whole, breakfast.
But I really love the music in Europe. That's beautiful. I don't eat cereal because it makes me fat, but awesome. Okay. We have a minute to our commercial break. So let's keep going until.
Yes. So then I do.
And that holds you for a couple hours?
And I have some fibers in between, I can have an apple. Apple has a little sugar in it, of course, but one apple is fine. You shouldn't have, 100 apples a day, but one is good in between to fill you up a little bit. Drink a lot of water all day. Salad, I have a salad, but the dressing can kill you too. The dressing, a lot of dressing has a lot of sugar in it. So do like olive oil or virgin olive oil instead of the dressing comes with. Ask for olive oil and put that into the salad with a chicken or turkey or something lean, with lettuce, the tomatoes. Get some green in there. It's very good for you. And I eat a lot of fish, steamed vegetables. I stay away from all those, potatoes and bread. Once in a while I have all that, but most of the time I don't. I just have steamed vegetables and clean food.
You're very disciplined. We're going to go to a break. We have to go to a break, but wait, don't go anywhere because, you want to know, ladies, guys, you want to know how do you get nice and lean and trim and look young? This is how you do it.
Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
So last night, my husband was laughing as he was reading about the differences between men and women. According to the article, men get single tusks or hiccups more often than women. Everyone knows that women are better at multitasking than men. I'm good at both multitasking and procrastinating, which means right now there are 28 things that I'm putting off until later. What's another word for a person who puts everything off until the last minute? A cunctator. Women blink nearly twice as much as men, and while men can read smaller print than women, women can hear better. In fact, when a woman says, "What?" she heard you. She's just giving you a chance to change what you said.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Women's Health magazine cited a recent study that showed 41% of women said the main reason they do not eat better is because they do not have enough time. It takes time to plan healthy, low-calorie meals, not to mention going to the store and buying the right foods. But it's worth it. A survey by the CDC found that almost 40% of people who lost a significant amount of weight and kept it off planned their weekly meals. Map out your meals for a week, spending just an hour or two on the weekend shopping for a week's worth of healthy meals will save you time and pounds in the long run. If you take the time to plan out what you're going to eat and have it on hand, you will be successful in your weight loss and not be tempted to eat junk food. Mapping out your eating is a good idea. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Okay, and if you're just joining us, you are listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am Frankie Picasso, and my guest today is Geir Ness. And in his Fitness Minute, he's telling us about his. So, Geir, you're telling us about your wonderful diet. You're very clean. You really eat clean, super clean. No sugar really. Everything is natural food. Nothing is packaged food, and it helps you stay nice and trim. Now, what about exercise? I know that you've run a marathon for cancer, and I want to get into that. I want to get into that a little bit about what the foundations and things that you help out in the world. But just let's finish off with your fitness. What kind of a regime do you do?
So, I understand that we all have different lifestyles. I know that a lot of people probably listen to you now are mothers that have kids. They don't have a lot of time. They work, and have kids. And, we're all different. But I do think, though, if you put in what I do, I say meeting, a meeting will be a meeting with me, meaning time for me. So a lot of times people say, so what are you doing, Geir, at 4 o'clock? I say I have a meeting from 4 to 5:30, which is actually my workout, but I call it a meeting. I put it into a meeting list because if you don't do that, I wait tomorrow and tomorrow. So you got to put in some time for you, regardless of what you do, because it's easier than, to deal with things, in your daily life, with your family. And I've told so many friends of mine doing that, and they actually call me thinking, Geir, thank you for doing that, because now I have a little time, I work out, I do some cardio, so you should always do some cardio. It's good for your heart. I also do some free weights, of course, and all that too. But cardio is the most important thing you do, either on a treadmill or whatever you can do. Or if you can't do that, go for a long walk, like at least exercise.
But like your body really is defined. Like you've got like the 8-pack happening. I mean, like you're very chiseled.
So maybe I can set up a program for it. But, so I do abs exercise like 3 days a week, which I spend around 10, 15 minutes on my abs. With different ones,
Is this on a machine or just free weight?
Both. You can do it at home, You can do it at home. If you don't have a gym around you, you can definitely do this exercise at home. The blanket you can do, you sit up, and then on your, you can do sit-ups. But and a lot of times you read, sit-up is not good for you. I mean, all those things. People say you can't do this, you can't do that, but I tend to listen to your own body and what you can do. But I do think if you have a lifestyle that is healthy, you eat healthy food, you do exercise, you do long walks, or you can, if you live in an apartment in the 3rd floor, do the steps if you can instead of doing elevator, certain things like that, and that will adds up, a lot. So, not always jump in your car and drive everywhere. Maybe you can walk those, blocks instead of driving, and just think about that all the time, and think about what you eat, and write it down sometimes. Okay, what did I do today? And also try not to have food inside your home that you're going to eat in the evening if it's not good for you, because you're going to eat it. So
you are going to eat it.
Put food in your home that is good. Even if you wake up at 2 a.m, if you need something, then whatever you take, then it's okay. It's a fiber or something instead of the of the white chocolate or the cookies or whatever. Try to have in your home things you can eat, because we all do the cravings at night. Absolutely.
Wow. Good advice. Thank you so much for that. Cancer seems to be something that's on your radar. You've got the Norwegian Cancer Society. You ran the Susan Komen for a friend of yours who had cancer, a marathon, and also animals, because that's, animals are like really big in my world. I love businesses who are interested in social impact, because I think it's very important to give as well as get, right? So how did cancer come on your radar? Like, did you know somebody?
Well, my sweet mom had colon cancer a few years ago, and I was just shocked. I was with her, and we were in the city of Bergen on the west coast of Norway. We visited a friend of mine, having dinner, and my mom, thought she had something else. The doctor said, this is nothing serious and stuff, but we should do some tests so you can't eat certain things. And she thought it was just going to be, a simple little thing. There was nothing really,
related.
Exactly.
Or something.
And then, right. And then they took tests, and then I went back to the United States after Norway, And the next week, my mom's going to do a test and get results and everything. So I called her up and said, so how was it? I said to my mom, well, it was cancer. I said, what? What did you say? Oh, it was cancer, but that's fine. It will be fine.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, and I was sitting there. I was walking on Fifth Avenue, and I almost, I was walking on the phone and said, what did you just say? And I didn't see the green and the red light. I almost got,
oh my gosh,
run over by a car because I was she took it so well. So I couldn't be freaky. I said, oh, Mom, that'll be fine. Yeah, she said it's a colon cancer. And
which is not a nice
I said, oh, yeah, that's nothing, whatever, So she started to do treatments and everything. And I remember that was in the fall, and she did treatments, and she had an operation right around Christmas time. So I was obviously home for her with that. And then I got her home, and she's starting to do better. And now she's cancer-free. But I also, thank God, she did well, and she had the operation and all that. And then I had another friend of mine, and she was a marathon runner. Her name was Greta White, and she had actually won 9 New York Marathon. Wow. And she was such a trooper, and she had a foundation in Norway for cancer that we had to raise money for and run the marathon. And I never ran a marathon before. I worked out my whole life, but not running a marathon. It's different,
Yeah, 26 miles, right?
So that, yes. So I practiced for that, and she wrote a book about, and she taught me how to do it and how to practice it and all that. So we ran the marathon. We raised a lot of money, and then I've been involved with several, other organizations, after that. And then, of course, I loved animals since I grew up, and I work now with the animal shelters, in the United States. That I will go raise money. I will also take them out when I have time in between home and traveling.
Nice.
I work mostly with bigger dogs like pit bulls because people are afraid of them. They think they're the dangerous, evil dogs, but they are not.
They're
so sweetest dogs, but they get trained to be evil. There are human beings that are so evil to these dogs, and they are the one that's gonna, that make these dogs evil. There's nothing the dogs themselves. They're actually very sweet.
Yeah,
so,
I actually got a guy coming on next week who saved, or 2 weeks, who saved one of those pit bulls and got arrested. Like, this dog was emaciated. He took it off a person's property, and he got arrested and went to jail. But you know what? God bless him that he saved this dog. And you know what? We have to help our animals. We have to help our animal friends. And
they can talk. Animals can talk, and they need love. They need help. And I just and helping me too. When I, like, last time I was in California, I went to these animal shelters and I took out one of the pit bulls, and they were supposed to say it's going to be a little aggressive and all that. So I took him walking and played with him, and I took him under a tree and I sat down with him, and he looked at me, and all of a sudden, he come up to me and he put his head on my shoulder, and just looked at me. And so I was surprised, like, oh my God, it was such a nice moment. And they give me more, love than I'm sure I will give them. I mean, it goes both ways. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You do something good for them, they give it back. And I just love it. I forget everything. I don't have my cell phone with me or anything. I just go and be with them. And then it's a wonderful thing. So whoever listening, if they can do something, I think they can go to animal shelters and try to help them and, take some courses and help them, whatever they can do.
You are just such a beautiful example. Geir, you're such a beautiful example for everyone. Everybody says, I can't do anything. I can't do this. I don't have time for that. Here's a guy who travels 300 days a year. He's never in his home, 300 days a year, and he's going to shelters and taking dogs out for the day to play with them. He's running marathons for cancer. He's traveling, back and forth, visiting his family. He makes time for that, because you make time for the things that are important to you. Just like you said, you schedule
and
that time
think
for
that,
yourself.
Yeah, and I think, Frankie, that, it's a priority. Like, you have to prioritize your life, and set goals and do it, and not just talking and, and put it down on the paper, if you have a problem, to focus. And there's so many things we want to do in life. But I think if you prioritize, your friends and families and see people out there that need you, I mean, that's what I'm looking at, people who needs me. I've been lucky and fortunate. Yeah, I've been working hard, but also lucky to have the lifestyle I have today. So I wanted to give back, and I wanted to do something that, is meaningful to me, and for me, it's not as meaningful to drive around, and go to all these big, Hollywood parties, which I've been to, and it's good for my job, but I want to do something that really, it means something for me that I feel, and that's definitely helping people and dogs, and definitely.
Well, you know what? We have 3 minutes to the end of our show. So I want to make sure that we get your website in, which is www.Laila, which is spelled Laila, like Laila, but Laila.com, and www.geirness.com, which is GEIRNESS.com. So the websites are out there. Geir, what do you want to tell us? You can say anything you want.
I just want to tell everybody that listen to you, because I know how great you are. Your show it's about, the thinking and the care, and I just think people should really say to themselves, what have I done today to maybe help somebody else too? Is this all for myself? What can I do something to help people? What can I do? What's around me? Are there maybe in animal shelters, or are there maybe kids that need you? I've been working with disabled kids, and I've been doing all, there's always things you can find out on the computer, what's around me, that you can help somebody. Just say hi to people, just smile to people, instead of just looking down, and be nice to people. That's a good start. You know what I mean? Like, we can always make a difference.
I found out in life. On a show, we've only got a minute or two, but I think last week on a show, one of my guests said that people are afraid of old people. They're afraid to talk to senior citizens. We talked at the beginning of the show, everybody's on their cell phones and stuff, that they forget that old people know a lot of stuff, and they're afraid of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, crazy.
Yeah.
Go and talk to some
I just think that we have to, and be kind to people, and and respectful and nice and sweet. You know what I mean? That's the thing to me. And you can make a big difference just being kind and nice, and You know what I like? I like knowing that there's people like you in the world. I'm so happy to have met you. Oh, thank you. And to you, Frankie, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for all what you do for people, and have people on so that people can listen and learning, hopefully, and, all can have a better world out there. If we
Here we got 1 minute. What's new? What are you creating now? What's the next big Geir Ness?
I'm creating a new fragrance that will be out in October, November, and I can't really tell you the name yet, but it will be a big launch for me.
Nice.
So maybe if we are next time, I can tell you all about that too.
Okay, good. Yeah. Make sure you let me know when it's out, so I can, because I don't know if it'll be in Canada, but I'd like to hear about it.
Well, definitely, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, and all of you listeners, thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best in the world.
Thank you. Wherever you are in the world, thank you. We love you, and we're signing out right now, but we will be back next week. Take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Don't stop.
When the chips were down, they didn't stop. Stories of people who, when the odds were against them, turned defeat into victory. You've been listening to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. See you next time, and always remember...
Don't stop.